Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of the 220 Gals, the Redemption Podcast. As you can see, Dr. Amber is not with me right now, but that is because she is on the other side. Today, I am so honored to be interviewing Dr. Amber and her husband, Grant, as we dive deep and unravel their love story. I'm really excited for this episode because with their love testimony, it really just shows so many assets of God and how he works, such as how God will just completely intervene when you least expect it, his divine timing, and what it's like to have a God-centered marriage. So let's get started and let's dive in. Hello, Grant. Welcome.
Welcome to my living room.
Right? Welcome to our podcast in your living room.
Yeah, this is the 220 Gals space.
Glad to be here. It wasn't too bad of a commute. So
Good. I'm so glad that it was easy for you and your schedule. But before we actually dive in, I want to just highlight Grant for a second. Well, I mean, this whole episode will be highlighting you guys. But Grant is actually the mastermind behind the name of the 220 Gals. And so before we started, I first want to say thank you for coming up with that. But also, how did you even think of coming up with the 220 Gals? Just like a little snippet.
I don't even really remember. I just always have these. I like alliteration and things. So
I
don't
was
know.
reading. I was actually you were sitting
You
over
were telling
there.
me Galatians. There's 2 girls and 220.
No. I actually was reading Galatians 2:20, and it's no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me.
Yeah.
And I was just sitting here reading it, and I was like, that's exactly what's going on with us. And then you said, oh, well, that's cute. The 220 Gals.
Well, I'm glad you remember.
Yeah.
Okay, very cute. I absolutely love it. So just wanted to highlight you for a second.
Yeah.
But to really just like get full force diving into the episode to unravel your both of your love story, God-centered marriage, I want to start with you, Grant. Before you met Amber, kind of let's do 6 months beforehand. Where are you in life?
Okay, so before meeting Amber, about 6 months prior, I was on the tail end of finishing up basically what was Leadership Academy is how I was kind of coerced into it. It was a very intensive, long, emotional intelligence academy of sorts. So did that with a past long-term relationship. We went into it, but we didn't come out of it together because of essentially the personal growth that happened in that meantime. We essentially found that we had chosen into that relationship unconsciously based on who we were before bringing a lot more awareness into who we were really and what we wanted in life. So it was an amicable split, but coming out on the back end of that was then basically 5 to 6-ish months of being a digital nomad. As we separated, I basically just got rid of anything that I had that didn't fit in a suitcase or a backpack. I was just traveling around. It did also give me the opportunity to close essentially the one open loop relationship that had stuck with me since years prior of that whole one that got away. I went up and spent a month or so essentially like giving that a real try and found out that that was also one of those things that was an unconscious choose into. But then being essentially who I really am on purpose, that was clearly a closed door. And so it really, coming into meeting Amber was very much a fresh slate with a lot more clarity and without those old ties, so to speak, that, it kind of held me back quite a bit up to that point.
That's fascinating. I'm curious, was this your step into self-development or like the first time of you kind of unpacking, really going within to discover and to correct old stories, past identities?
It wasn't my intro, but it was probably one of the most impactful things, that Leadership Academy. Because I had been in bodybuilding, supplement stores. I always had kind of a inclination to self-development in ways and, read the business books and stuff like that. But it was a big catalyst for me for sure.
Awesome. And then you also mentioned digital nomad, which there was like a part of me years ago where I wanted to do that, but there was no way. How did you make the leap to actually sell your stuff and just whatever you could pack into a suitcase?
It wasn't honestly that hard for me with where I was in life at that time. I mean, because when I say like emotional intelligence, a lot of it was like shedding old baggage emotionally and psychologically. So to let go of the physical baggage wasn't really all that big of a stretch. It was kind of like a Fight Club thing too. It was one of my old favorite movies. The things we own end up owning us, and a lot of our circumstance and our surroundings dictate who we actually are in the world and how we operate. And so doing this thing to create a fresh slate, it felt kind of like a natural byproduct to just, all right, materially fresh slate. Let's go see who I can be without any attachments whatsoever. So
Wow. So it seems like in this time period of your life, you're going through a lot of self-development, a lot of self-growth, because not only did you go through this program, you're ending ties, you're really looking from within, but I can only imagine becoming a digital nomad as well kind of opens a door to really unpack who you are and what you can achieve and get through.
oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was basically I'm working online, remote, so literally I had nothing to keep me in a place, and so it just gave me an opportunity to see who I could be if not a byproduct of prior conditioning or circumstance. So it was a really good opportunity to just pursue growth for the sake of growth.
Right. That's very cool. I'm curious, with all this self-development, what's your relationship with God in this time period?
Non-existent.
Okay.
I mean, since being a kid that it basically went to Catholic mass maybe twice and got shuttled off to vacation Bible school when I was a wee tot. I just wasn't interested at all. It was clear to me that was not what I wanted to do, and that's what I carried with me up till that point. So I just had no relationship and no interest at that point.
Okay. Cool. And now, Amber, where are you 6 months prior to meeting Grant?
Yeah, I feel like this leaves off from my testimony where him and I actually had a breakup in May of 2019, obviously with two different people and not each other. We didn't know each other yet.
Same time, though.
And I was at a place, I think I was 38 maybe then. And I was at a place where I was just like, I was so beyond had it with not having my person, and kind of, I gave my life to the Lord in 2014. And so at this point, it's 5 years later, and I've been just doing deep work with the Lord for 5 years. I've also been in personal development. I've been in like the spiritual communities and New Age. And so this breakup happened because my partner at the time had a child, and he didn't even really have custody of that child fully. And he just couldn't imagine having another child with his situation he already had. And I want children. And so he was very honest with me and said, I just don't think I can even think about having other kids at this point. And that was really hard for me because I really wanted a family. And this was someone I had known for a long time. So I really thought him and I had a chance. And so this breakup, I just went full force, like dove deep into God. And this is where in my journey, if you've heard my testimony, I really started diving deeper into the Bible. I isolated myself and I just kind of shut everything out because I was in San Diego at the time and I was surrounded by people who didn't really know the Lord. I had 2 friends maybe that knew God and they were married and wanting to have kids. And here I am fresh off a breakup. And, if you're single when you're older, being single is fun. I've always enjoyed being single, but when you're older and single, it is not fun because everyone around you is coupled, married, having kids. So to be that person that was continuing to have like relationship issues was like devastating for me. And so I just dove deep into God, and I spent, I'd say like 5-6 months just in therapy with God, really shutting everybody else out and just trying to figure out like, God, who am I? And I did a lot of attachment work on healing my relationship with my dad, not with him because he had died already, but like healing my wounds with my dad. Because I had, I've shared that in my testimony. My dad had psychosis. There was sexual abuse. in my childhood from him. He was homeless at times. Like, I just had so many wounds from my dad that I think it really influenced the partners I was choosing. I was choosing men who couldn't, there was just always something that was unavailable about them. Just like my dad. My dad really didn't have capacity to meet me or love me in a healthy way. And so I was unconsciously choosing those men. And so I just said, I'm not doing, like, Lord, I don't want to look at another man until you say, here's the guy. I surrendered 100%. I don't want to date. I don't want anything until you say this is the guy. And basically, I just also dove into my coaching at the time. I was shifting from a psychologist to a coach. And I'm still a psychologist, but just my business and how I was running it was more in line with that. And what was it? Was it August? Yeah, August of 2019, I get this offer from my business coach to go to Costa Rica. And it's basically a business mastermind. And it was very expensive. So I just didn't know if I could go financially, even though I was making really good money at the time. And it turned out my best friend was going, my roommate was going. So God like planted me right in between these people. I get on the website. I love lions. Like, lions are definitely my thing. And there's lions all over the website. It's gold, it's purple. These are all my things. And I'm just like, Lord, am I supposed to go to Costa Rica for this business mastermind? And he said, yes. So that's kind of how that started. Was I was like, okay. And I had been doing like 5 or 6 months of deep healing work. And I started to really feel free at that point, like free from the pain of the breakups, free from the pain of my dad. I really started to feel like on purpose and in alignment with God.
That's awesome. I'm curious, this might be a little vulnerable, but you mentioned you're 38, you're going through heartbreak, you're also healing the wounds. As women, we have a lot of pressure to get married, to have kids, and we're also kind of put on this timeline by society. I'm curious, at that time, it seems like you had a lot of hope, but did you think that the possibility of finding your person was still there, or what was your kind of outlook? Did you kind of give up and like, if it happens, it happens, or were you very much like, it's going to happen, I know it's going to happen, I just have to be patient with God?
No, I knew it was going to happen. Okay. I'm like made for love. I'm a lover.
Oh, I love
so
that.
I knew it was going to happen. I was just really frustrated with the journey. To be very transparent, I saw people that were in the world married with families, and they weren't doing everything perfect. They weren't, I had this unconscious feeling of like, I have to be perfect before God's going to give me a husband. And I know a lot of women who are single, who are on their walk with God, feel like that. Like, why is this taking so long? Why do I have to wait so long? And I realized a big part of it was he just had to come of age, really.
Favorite joke.
Yeah, well, it's kind of true. But yeah, I knew that love was for me, but I also knew that God wanted me to fully surrender that to him. And that was a big process for me. That took work on my end to do that.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. So now Costa Rica, this business trip is coming up. Your roommate and best friend are going. It's very expensive, but everything just seems very aligned for you to go. And then Grant, how do you come into this situation of going to this business event?
God's perfect timing. I was running the sales team for a company at the time. That was just what I was doing, right? Selling or coming to events and speaking and things like that. And we had a couple record months, and he was actually supposed to go, the owner of the company. Without all the details, he had some relationship challenges of his own at the time, and essentially it was like, I'm not going. Do you want to go? And at the time, I'm just nomad already. So
I was
what's
about to
the
say
difference?
digital nomad. I'm ready, packed and ready already.
Let's go. The one thing that I wasn't ready for, though, was international travel, because I didn't have a passport. So that was yes, and how do I do this? And I look online, and it's basically no chance that you can get a passport anytime soon. But I just said yes and tried. And God's hand was completely on it, because for some crazy reason, I don't even remember how all the pieces fell into place, but, you know, when we looked back at it, what was it? A day or 2 days before the trip was when I posted the picture, like, got the passport.
Yeah. I mean, between when you applied for it and got it, how long was that?
I want to say 3 days. I mean, it makes no sense, but it was again, God's miracle, perfect timing. I was able to get a passport just out of thin air right before having to fly out.
Tell them about CVS. That's funny.
Which part? What was the CVS?
Like pulling up and barely.
Oh, well, actually, it was based. That Uber screeches to a halt, and I jump out of the Uber in front of the passport office, and that was after having to go to like a CVS and a print shop, because I didn't have a printer. I'm just living wherever. I had to go to I think a FedEx for a print shop and CVS to get pictures taken. All of this happens in one day. Wow. And I'm Ubering around because, again, traveling, don't have a car. But literally, I screech to a halt in the Uber, jump out before it's like fully stopped at the passport office, run in, and it's minutes before they close. And then 3 days later, give or take maybe 1 or 2, because it's shocking how fast it was. I have a passport in hand and I'm going.
Wow. Wow.
I know. I mean, it's only God, because people apply for passports and it takes weeks, and it's crazy.
Absolutely. I was about to say that, just like to highlight, one, you know, you're not believing in God at this time, but even when we don't believe, it just goes to show that God is part of our lives. And then also, when God wants something to happen, he's going to make it happen. Mm-hmm. And obviously, this is a little foreshadowing, but getting you two to meet one another, he was going to make it happen no matter what. Mm-hmm. How cool. Okay, so we're going to Costa Rica now. We've got our passport. We're set. We're ready.
Rock and roll.
We decided. How did you come up with the funds to go, or did you just?
I just was making really good money.
Okay. Yeah. So now we got you here. So where do we go from here? How do we even meet one another?
Do you want to tell that part?
Well, yeah. So we fly into Costa Rica, and this is what's really interesting. I just have to add this because this is another God thing. So the last 6 months have been deep with God, isolated, not dating, nothing. And then the last month before I decide to go to Costa Rica, it's like I'm emerging from the grave. And my friend and I always would say it's like we would turn our light on, like when it's time to date, or I wasn't even thinking about dating, but it's just like I was coming back alive. And it's like my light got turned on. And literally, I go out the night before I'm going to Costa Rica just to meet up with friends. And I have a guy friend who I met up with down there, and he's just like, hey, I got this guy who wants to date you. He wants to get married. I got this guy who wants to date you. I had this other guy coming in, and it was suddenly like, pfft. And I remember I went on like a date that night, the night before Costa Rica. I don't even know if I told you that. I had like I had like a little impromptu date because I was feeling this person out. This was someone that I went to college with. And basically I just prayed about it, and I was asking the Lord about these people, and the Lord was strong no on all of them. I was like, really? Okay. And so I was just like, no. So then we get to Costa Rica. We land in the airport. I think we met in the airport, but we didn't realize, because then we were taking a little charter flight to the resort. And it's cute because we got on the charter flight, really tiny flight, and I'm sitting right in front of him. And we don't know each other yet.
There was 2 charter flights, so we picked the right plane to end up together.
Right. That is funny. Yeah. There was another one. So we
Oh.
chose the same one. And I'm sitting right in front of him, and I'm just myself. So I'm like, whoa, like yelling and
We're on vacation. Look how beautiful it is.
yeah, taking videos, pictures.
True influencer style.
Influencer. And I'm like, I take a group picture, and my honey's right behind me, and me and him are the only ones that are like geeked out, and everybody else is just smiling. And it's just like right from the beginning, you can tell there's some similarities there.
So
And-
I'm curious, after taking that photo and then sitting by yourself and looking at the photo, did you initially think anything of the photo, or was
No,
it? Okay,
no.
Okay.
No, because
I don't think there was really time for that. I mean, she correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure you were videoing all the takeoff,
I was
in the
very
air.
excited.
Absolutely. I just meant like later
Total
later
documented.
that night, you're like looking through the photos. Did you initially think like, oh, how come we're the only ones that are just so excited and everybody else is like, yeah, we're here?
We didn't notice. I didn't notice this till after the
Okay.
trip, probably. But it's cute.
I mean, the place was epic, and it was all a new experience. International for me, I think you'd gone international, but like charter flight, this private resort. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of time to sit back and reflect. It was just, wow, this is sweet. I can't believe it. This is super cool.
I had been to Mexico and Canada, and that's it at this point. So I was dying to just travel. So I was so excited. We get to the resort. The resort's grand and beautiful and luxurious. It's on this cliffside in Costa Rica, the infinity pool looking out to the Costa Rican jungle. And it's just funny because we get in there and there's lions everywhere. The door knockers, the chandeliers, the pictures, the paintings. And I see this big lion. It's like a $100 bill lion. And I don't know, but I grab you, of all people, and I ask you to take a picture of me. And I don't even remember that. I didn't remember that I asked him, but I did. And it was kind of, we talked about it, me, you, and this guy, Dave. We just kind of gravitated towards each other, and they became my buddies. And we started the trip. And it was like there were steam rooms there, saunas, hot tubs, infinity pools. So we were just all three using all the amenities every night, just kind of, having our best life.
They were there. We're going to use them.
Yeah.
Not everyone felt the same way. So oftentimes it was literally just the crew.
Yeah.
The early morning swims, the late night sauna. It was a blast.
Yep.
So during this time, although you're having so much fun together, you guys are out of the whole entire group kind of the ones like, hey, why aren't we all having fun using all these things that are here? Are we starting to feel a gravitational pull towards one another? Is it just kind of like, you want to enjoy this place, you think it's just as cool, like we're just buddy?
Well, the latter is kind of how it started. But I mean, she's center of gravity, obviously beautiful. And as I've said before, I mean, she's not quiet. So it's hard to not
Well,
notice
he says
her.
I'm loud.
I'm going to have to side with Grant on this one. Not in a bad way, though. Not in the bad way. You're definitely a life of the party.
Yeah, but fun, right? Like
Yeah.
super fun. And so we were just naturally like, hey, we're both here to have a great time and enjoy it. And so pictures, who do I grab? Well, let's do it together. And so we're enjoying for the first probably 2 days. Mostly is just,
Yeah. And we're just having fun. But then I do notice, because we were doing a lot of activities that required bathing suits, and I noticed he would take his shirt off. And I was like, oh, okay, that's nice. And so
yeah, I wasn't the most clothed.
no, he loves to always have a shirt off. So I was very interested. I was like, oh, that's kind of what got my attention, was him having his shirt off. But I also I genuinely wasn't thinking about guys at this point. I was like so excited to be there for my business and to be in Costa Rica that, I liked him with his shirt off, but there wasn't anything beyond that.
Just some good eye candy while
Yeah.
you're on a business trip.
Yeah.
I like it.
No harm, no foul.
Right.
Right.
Okay, so how does this come to be?
So it was that day. It was the third day.
It was a dark and stormy night.
Yeah, it was. It was the third day. We would all meet outside. We'd have like our huddles, our meetings. And he came. It was funny because I was sitting down on the couch with my pen and paper, and he came and sat down next to me. And literally, it was like this. Zoom. It was I could feel this force field of energy, like, zoom. And I remember it was like, focus here. That's just what I got, was like, focus here. And I was like, what was that? And it's suddenly like I saw him differently. It's like he went from the first couple days being this like cool guy I was just hanging out with to like suddenly there was something. And I always say God put a spell on me, because it was weird. It was like a veil was lifted and I just saw him differently. And then it started raining at one point, and then the lights went out. Like in the whole resort, lights went out. And it was weird because you and I just slowly started like doing like this until we're just cuddling in this business meeting. And we're just like this. And then all the lights come back on and we're just over here like ding.
Wow.
But
Hi.
it did not feel, it was weird. It did not feel like the usual, like you see someone, you're attracted, there's chemistry, you flirt, it was just like this sudden like light went on and it was like drawn to him.
Okay, so that happens for you, but what's your perspective? Did you get something similar?
What's funny is it wasn't like, all right, time to put the moves on. It genuinely was basically like the same thing. I mean, I literally kind of feel like, okay, lights go out and then they come back on and it's like, oh, what's going on here? Almost like I was an observer to what was happening.
Yeah, it's like it was just happening. Like we weren't, I don't know.
Oh,
I
interesting.
still don't
like,
fully understand.
Randy and Shelly have their, oh, that guy's cute, so I'm going to do the walk by story. And he goes, ooh, I like that. Let me grab. It wasn't putting moves on whatsoever.
Mm-mm.
But you didn't notice, like, when the lights turned out, she's, like, cuddling with you, or you're, like, pulling her closer? There wasn't any, like...
We both were doing it.
No, it was, like, legit just an after the fact. The lights come on, and then we both are like, okay, this is nice.
Well, we were kind of like,
Wow.
I felt like we were getting closer, but it was just, I didn't understand.
Yeah, hard to explain.
Yeah, we just were doing that.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We just were doing it.
We went from 0 to 100.
Right.
Well, not straight at 100.
No, I know.
I'm sure. Yeah, that would have been weird. I'm sure that like, it's been 5 years now, but there was a lot of like 2 days of interaction and fun and lots of laughter. And like, we were feeling very comfortable with each other, but it was something tangible energetically that was like focus on him. And then it suddenly felt like, oh, this just feels right. And that was different.
Yeah,
So-
as with anything, I'm sure there were signs if we could look back in retrospect, but we were just so immersed in having such a good time that I don't even recall specifics like that.
Yeah.
I do wish there had been a videographer so we could look back on the documentary. That'd be pretty sweet.
Interesting.
we were having a
Interesting.
blast.
Okay, so we go from, hey, you're cool, we're hanging out, we're doing all the fun things, to lights go off, now we're cuddling. Now, like, oh, I'm starting to see you in a different way. Where do we go from there? Do we have a conversation?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, that was Wednesday.
Well, we had very long conversations. Was it that night or
Yeah,
the
it was
next
that
night
night.
that we basically just stayed up all night in the hot tub talking?
how
Yeah, like
fun.
everyone went to bed and we stayed in the hot tub till like 3 a.m. just talking.
Full prunes.
Full prunes.
Full prunes.
And I told him, because he was kind of being a guy and trying to be like, yeah, like he was doing the flirty, let's make out type stuff. And I was very like,
God
No.
says no.
Leave
I
room
need
for
to take-
Jesus.
and I was like, leave room for Jesus. We're not doing this again. Like I was very like, no. Because at that point in my life, I had been and done the promiscuous one night stand thing. I knew how to do that. And that never worked for me.
I was an expert.
I got the certificate. Okay. And I was like, I'm not doing that anymore. So I was pretty much just like, nope, that's not happening. And I was setting my boundaries really clearly. And, we were doing all the typical, like, share your life story. What are you looking for? All that stuff. And it kind of just went from there because we had till I think we left Saturday. So it was like Wednesday to Saturday, continuing to work on our business while flirting, getting to know each other, late night talks type stuff.
So before we move on, you mentioned earlier the whole age thing. At this time, you're 38. How old are you, Grant?
You'd have to ask her for that as well.
So I thought he was 27. He was actually 22.
Okay. And then as you guys are having this long talk,
Man, time's flown.
What-
That's crazy.
we'll start with you, Amber. What's your initial thought of like how much younger he is?
Well, that wasn't the first time I had done that. So it wasn't abnormal.
Oh, okay.
I was like, 22 is a bit young, but also I had dated younger guys. So it was, for me, it was like, nah, this isn't so outside of me.
I was the same in reverse. I didn't really have any interest in anyone close to my age
Oh,
for
okay.
quite a while.
No, because mentally he's like 45 right now. And he's older than me mentally. So because of that, I thought he was older because he's sitting there has an online business, can travel from anywhere, which was very appealing to me. You know, living that lifestyle, being able to work from anywhere, time freedom, all this. I was like, I want that. I was working towards that. So to see someone doing that and then to find out he was 22, I was like, okay. But I wasn't taking it seriously. I was telling him, like, I'm looking for my husband, but I wasn't assuming that it was him.
Okay. Okay, so now we're interested in one another. We're curious. Obviously, the trip has to come to an end. Where do we go from here?
Well, I mean, by that point, we're kind of thick as thieves. But she was staying in Costa Rica.
We had smooched.
There was some smooching.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Remember, leave room
And
for
I- and
Jesus.
I'm just going to tell this because it's funny. He kissed me. It was pretty like a shallow kiss, and I'm a deep kisser. And so I said, not my guy. That's not going to work. And then I told him, and then he's like, let me try that again.
Nice. Let me have some redemption.
I mean, it's like, are you going to invite me inside or?
And so then he kissed me again, and then he gave me a deeper kiss. And I was like, okay,
That'll work.
that's fine.
we can work with us.
We can work with that. It's just kind of funny.
Yeah, that's fair.
So
Yeah.
then you went to Oregon to go be with your family.
Yeah, so you were staying in Costa Rica. I had a quick family trip up in Oregon before I then had an event to speak at down in San Diego. So that was our parting of ways, was in Costa Rica. But she convinced me somehow to do what's completely against my character, which is to talk constantly on a video app. Like, it was called Marco Polo. And I'm not a big like remote communicator.
I don't think I convinced him because he did it very willingly.
Well, I just want to make it clear, like, it was very different
is.
than
Abnormal.
my character. If I'm here, I'm very present. But if you want to text me or send me messages, I probably have 400 unread text messages or something like that I have no intention of getting back to.
Oh,
Yeah.
notifications.
I view it as an invitation to communicate, not an obligation. So
And he was very.
So you're kinda like out of
communicative,
we
sight,
were
out of
pretty much
mind.
talking constantly from there.
Okay.
Is the
which is so
the
not like him.
punchline.
And I didn't know that. And what's really cool, you know how when you're dating someone, sometimes there can be a push pull, the communication works, or there's like questions. There was never. Like him and I communicated so seamlessly while we were apart. But of course, we just met. There was that interest.
initial.
Right. But yeah, we pretty much just communicated. And then a week later, you flew to San Diego to go to an event, to speak at an event. I live in San Diego. That's another thing. We met in Costa Rica. We lived in San Diego. We were born in Oregon, both of us.
Wow.
So my friends.
And not even far apart, too. Like, I ran a vitamin shop in a city that you had lived for quite a while. Not at the same time, but, I mean, we're
Yeah.
from the same hood.
His dad was like fans of the college I went to. It's just really funny. And my friends would say,
Well, we had a football in the house on the shelf from the bowl game that you were televised cheerleading at,
yeah.
which is hilarious.
And he was
That
probably 9
1 year,
at that point.
Nice.
who knows?
Yeah. No, it's funny because I had friends after I told them about meeting him, which I didn't tell people about meeting him for a while because I just didn't want to like be like, hey, I got this other guy. And, I just wanted to make sure it was something that was going to stay. And my friends were like, did you meet a Costa Rican man? And I was like, no, I met an Oregon man in Costa Rica. It was cracking us up.
Well, I'm curious, before we continue on with the story, you're very much with God and diving deep with him. I'm sure during this long conversation you had realized that he has no relationship with God. How do you feel about that?
Well, that's an immediate like no for me. But when I talk to God all day, every day. I'm always praying. I'm always in the shower, in the car, in my quiet moments. Anytime I'm by myself, I'm talking to God. And so I was talking to God about him. And what's so weird is like the second week I was in Costa Rica, I was there with some friends. One of those friends was a guy who was interested in me and was making that clear. And I prayed about him too, and I kept getting no. about him. And so I had to have a talk with him several times and be like, it's a no. When I would pray about him, I would get, wait here. And it was not a no, it was not a yes, it was a wait here. And I was like, what, Lord, what do you want me to do with that? I don't understand. Because I was clear with God, like, I don't trust being with a man who doesn't have the Lord in his life. I've been through too much. I've been, frankly, hurt too much. I will not be with a man who doesn't have God in his life. And God was just like, do you trust me? Wait here. And so that's why I kept talking to him and kept getting to know him. And we had several conversations early on where I was kind of just trying to push him away. When I was like, you don't need to be here. Like, you're 22 going on 23. I think you turned 23 by that point. I want to have kids and I want to be married, and you don't need any of that. Like, you're young. You can do whatever you want. And you would always respond with,
I'm not leaving.
I'm not leaving, is what he would say.
I mean, you can picture Jordan Belfort in the sales floor, right?
Right.
I'm not leaving.
Yeah. And I would be like, but you should, and he's just like, I'm not going anywhere. And so it was this weird thing of like, God was telling me to wait. He was saying, I'm not leaving. We had this undeniable natural chemistry, and it felt so easy with him. Like, everything that had maybe been challenging with other partners, it wasn't even an issue with him. You just naturally did and said everything that I needed, and I didn't even have to tell you. It's like you just did it. And I would have so many little moments where I would get teary-eyed because I was like, God, he is perfect, but it makes no sense. He's not my age and he doesn't love God, so I don't get it. Why are we doing this? And that was kind of where I lived for a while.
Interesting. And what was your perspective of her having such a strong relationship with God, whereas you have no relationship with God? Did that interfere? Did she ever kind of, in a sense, push that on you? Or was it like, hey, okay, you believe in that, cool, like, I'm going to do my own thing?
Yeah, she actually didn't push it on me, which was like why I had no issue with it. To me, I know it might sound funny, but it was like akin to her saying, I love raisins. I'd be like, good for you. I don't. So as long as they're not in my food, no problem. Because still, again, not interested, but it was a libertarian kind of approach where, you do you, no sweat. You're free to have your preferences. I don't judge. And it's crazy looking back at that now. But yeah, she didn't push it on me either. She was clear about what she liked. And I was clear that that's no sweat. That's not what I like.
And I remember you had said something about other women that you had dated had tried to bring you to God, and you were just like a strong no.
Yeah, basically, you want to come to church? No, thank you. Okay.
Yeah, I invited him to church. He didn't want to go. In fact, I tell this story. We were getting to the point where he was going to meet my mom, and I invite him to church. We go, my mom's with us, and me and my mom go into church, and he stays in the car. Like, that's where we were at. And normally, because I had left men in the past for that behavior, like men who just weren't in alignment with God. So I was like, okay, we can't do this. And it was weird because when he stayed in the car, my old self would have been so upset about that and angry about that. And instead, I just felt like, okay, it's his choice. And I just let it roll off my back.
Wow, this is very fascinating because most people, externally, it does not look like the picture you had envisioned. Mm-hmm. And then you also have such a strong relationship with God. Mm-hmm. And it's like, he's telling me to wait, but this doesn't look like this would be part of his plan or what he would want. You guys also have a really unique dating story. Mm-hmm. And I would love for you to kind of talk about what was going on in the world as you two are seeing if this relationship is going to go anywhere.
Yeah. We only had a couple months, right, before 2020?
Yeah.
Because we met right at the end of 2019, and then it wasn't too far into it before the whole world shut down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, COVID. So we were starting to fall for each other, and God was telling me to stay here, and so I was. And so we were dating, falling for each other, and then COVID happened and everything shut down. And even though the world was in fear and chaos, we were like falling in love. I moved my business online, which is what I wanted to do anyways. I started making a lot of money, and you and I were doing great. Like, even though there was so much going on, because we were walking on the beach every day until they tried to close it. But yeah, we were just falling in love. And it was interesting how, there's so many strong opinions, political views out in the world that began in 2020, like so much dissension and tension and conflict. And we would just talk about things, and like he was shifting the way I saw stuff and I was shifting the way he saw stuff. And we were just kind of working together on our beliefs, which was really, really cool. But still, I had the Lord and he didn't.
Yeah.
Interesting. So where do we go from here? How long are you guys dating until engagement? I also know there was a medical scare. I can't remember if that comes before. Walk me through that.
Yeah, so I mean, at the time we're in San Diego, like Amber was saying, beach walks, having fun, both online. I had a lot of practice of working online at that point, so literally my life didn't change whatsoever. So I felt like it was more of an observer to see how other people would react in that time, and it actually brought us really close. It was like, you used the term zimzum. You taught me that term. That was our experience, almost like our own little bubble.
For people that don't understand that term, what is that? Zimzum? What does that mean?
Rob Bell, he's an author, speaker, spiritual guy. He talks about the zimzum. So it's the little world that you and your partner create, where it's like your idiosyncrasies, your inside jokes, your mannerisms. And so it's that little world that you create. And I was telling him about our zimzum.
Yeah, our little zimzum.
Your little routines,
like
your
that.
little habits.
Zimzum.
It's cute, right?
Yeah.
So it was only a few months. Probably, I can't imagine that it was really all that much more than maybe 6 months from the time that we met to we're in the thick of COVID. And I end up with, long story short, getting a cancer diagnosis. It came on really quick.
Yeah.
Basically, what I thought could have been bloating from all of the... I was never really averse to trying different methods of eating, long history of bodybuilding, supplement stores, all that good stuff. So we're doing like the vegan thing. And
I had been doing veganism for a while because I was trying to heal my body. And so he was joining me. And that changed. That was one thing he changed in me.
Yeah.
For the better.
So, but we're doing it, with like the completely fake processed sausages and all of that stuff, right? It's like, well, it's vegan, so that's good for you. So we're doing that, and that doesn't naturally sit all that well with me. So I figured, I'm kind of bloated. It's just probably what I'm eating. But that progressed rather quick to the point of ultimately excruciating pain in the middle of the night. And I have a very high pain tolerance. It's probably a redhead thing, right?
They do say it's genetic.
And literally, like, I've never had anything in my life, even down to I snapped my arm in a lacrosse game as a kid, buckle fracture, and I finished the game with 2 more goals. So, like, I've never had really anything that could take me out of commission. I was out of commission.
And he was yelling like he was in so much pain.
Yeah. Crazy. And she took me to the hospital or urgent care
like
in the middle of the night.
Or something.
Yeah. And that was a long, not fun process. 2020 in California, you couldn't even have anyone come into the hospital with you. So I'm just doing this alone.
And the next day, it's our anniversary. Interesting.
Was it literally the next day?
Yeah, so this was September of 2020. It's our anniversary. We rented a convertible. We were going to go somewhere, hit the town.
We had plans. We like to do birthday trips, anniversary trips, and stuff like that. So we're excited in anticipation for that.
And then he gets the call, and he's outside, and I can just feel something's wrong. And he comes inside and basically just collapses in my arms, crying. And I just knew. I just felt like I could tell. And then he said, I have cancer. And I was just like, what? And I'm getting emotional about it. I was so upset. So upset with all the stuff that had gone on. in my life. And then here I have this man who I feel like the Lord is saying, stay here. And then he gets cancer. And I'm like, what? But I was like, I'm here for you.
What was that term you used? The ride dog?
The roll dog.
Roll dog. Instant roll dog from my perspective. I couldn't have asked for any more. I mean, just support, and like, you were amazing. And that actually, for me, was probably one of the biggest things that solidified, going from like, I really like you, you're awesome, we're having a good time, and, to like, oh, this could be my person. Because you don't really know what's real until things are tested, right? And that's, if you're going to, in your vows, say in sickness and in health, like, do you mean it? It was clear before any of the ceremonial stuff, like, she means it. And that's what matters to me. So.
Well, and I had just gone through, 5 years of my own health journey. And so I was like, we're going to beat this. Like, this is 100% going to go in Jesus' name. And so I just and what's the thing about Grant, I've never seen any human being like this. When he decides something, he goes all in and he takes quick, decisive action. And so you immediately were like, I'm going to start doing all the healthy things to heal my body.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't really take stuff like that lying down well. So it was still without God at this point, but history in nutrition, supplements, all of that. And then having kind of spent a good bit of time in what San Diego called the conscious community. It was a lot of new age things, like kind of being your own God. If I say it, it's true. I declare it, and that's my reality, kind of a thing. Right? So basically, I wasn't going to be able to have the surgery that they told me that I needed for the grapefruit-sized mass in my pelvis, that's crazy, seeing the images, for about a month. That's how far they were supposedly backed up. And so I had that time to essentially do what I could in the meantime, in my mind, to just reduce the size of the incision. And also, like, what am I going to do? Just sit around and mope and wait? So it was basically, like you mentioned, all in decision. I'll do whatever I can to make a difference. At the time, I had a decent Facebook following, community, lots of friends and stuff from different ventures that also shared a lot of the same thing, alternative health, things like that. So I make a post, hey, anyone got any resources for this? And the outpouring of support was incredible. I mean, I just had, if you were ever to go dig it up and you're having a health challenge, like, there's probably not a resource that exists that wasn't linked in that thread. Wow. And I was like, well, I'll do all of it.
And his friends raised a GoFundMe, Jackie and Brad.
I had no insurance at the time, having transitioned to just going abroad, and I didn't ever really see the point in having it either, because I didn't want to pay for, nothing to then have no health issues.
I mean, he was 23, yeah.
Well, and then I had some health issues. So the one night in the ER was, I think, over 10 grand for like a scan and Tylenol and being ignored. I mean, the medical system is as jacked as it possibly could be.
Reach.
And I'm stuck in this point of cash pay with also basically not even being able to really work. I can't think clearly, and I'm just in so much pain.
So we
and
have
a couple
Stacey
of my friends,
and Seb helped get you insurance eventually.
Yeah, eventually, which was great. But right away, two of my best friends at the time, Jackie and Brad, who we had met through just business circles, client of, and then coworkers with, and stuff like that. They actually, unbeknownst to me, did a GoFundMe and were able to raise somewhere in the ballpark of, I don't want to misquote, I forget, but enough to make it okay.
20 or like 25 grand for him.
Wow. And also during a time of COVID where everyone's stressed about finances, fear of what's going to happen in the world.
Yeah.
Wow, this is so fascinating. So, during this like dark time, you two are having fun with one another, still continuing to get to know one another. Now we're dating, we're exploring. Hopefully, it all leads to marriage. You all of a sudden get this horrific scare at the age of 23, which most people don't ever anticipate something like that happening. You Amber, have gone through your own medical scares. You know, you also in your testimony talked about your father and, you know, some things with your mother. Like, you've kind of been around this before. So kind of in hindsight, Grant, like, what a perfect person who's very understanding, but also has seen the power of believing and taking action. You naturally do take action. So you kind of like have this teammate in this isolating worldly time of we're going to accomplish this together. It also seems that so many people around you kind of jumped in and supported you. And it's like, you know, so much like love and joy and great intentions around you of you're going to get through this. You take on this plunge of like, all right, you know, food is medicine. We're going to do everything I possibly can. So you start doing this. We have 30 days to accomplish this. I'm sure you're pressing into God even more so. Do you start pressing into God during this time?
It's what brought me there, but it wasn't the start. So I found Joe Dispenza meditation stuff and did all the dietary things you could think of, alternative healing stuff. And in that space of being open, you know, to pretty much any recommendation, my best friend at the time, Ben, who he's been sold out for Jesus for a very long time. And he's been a business partner, a mentor, great friend all the while. He basically calls me up and, you know, it's like, well, if you're trying everything, why don't you try the thing? in not so many words. Right. And I basically just was open to, all right, sure, why not? And so he introduces me to Ravi, while at the same time, another old kind of coworker, friend, mentor, Reggie, which you've gotten very familiar with Reggie, was also inviting me into seeing God's laws, universal principles, and things like that. So from Reggie being able to kind of make almost a scientific case for how things work, and then Ben being a very, you know, obviously trusted friend, introducing me to Ravi, it just kind of, I was trapped. Funny enough, as Ravi said, he goes, "You are unusually trapped," in his awesome Indian accent. Yeah. And it was true, because between Amber and Ben and Reggie, and then looking back, seeing all of the different forces, people, and reassurances along the way, I was trapped into it. And Ravi led me through the sinner's prayer. And like Amber mentioned, if I'm going to do something, I don't ever want my effort or dedication to be an opportunity for regret. In a sense, I want to know for a fact whether the thing itself works or it doesn't. And so I want to take myself out of the equation as much as possible. And for some reason, I have a knack of being able to do that. If I'm going to try something, it's all in either way. And so I did. He told me to get a Bible, read it, attend these calls with him, and just kind of slid right on into it.
Well, you got saved.
Yes. I that was me getting saved, but it wasn't like I feel like sometimes online you watch people's testimonies and it's the whole like earth-shattering, groundbreaking, my life changed in an instant. I knew it for a fact. God spoke to me audibly. I feel like there's so many like really big event I got saved testimonies, and that really wasn't mine. And I think it's kind of important to hear an alternative because it doesn't have to be that way. Mm-hmm. Like to me, it was really more of a, let me try this out and see how it goes. Mm-hmm. And so I was saved in the sense of, you know, I did the prayer, I start reading, but I wasn't having any supernatural experience that I was perceptive to, at least. And it wasn't like I felt a new person instantly. Mm-hmm. But it's what set me on the path that over time grew into something undeniable. To me, it was like, I'm going to do this until I have evidence that it's not worth doing.
Mm-hmm. Well, it seems like you're a very logical person. And as you mentioned, if you're going to make a decision, you're going to go 100%. not only are you surrounded by everybody that has a relationship with God, so it's kind of like, all right, well, everybody around me that I love so dearly is kind of doing this. There must be something. What was it? And maybe there's like a logical piece of you saying like, okay, you know what? Like, let me just try this.
Yeah, there is one mental model that helped me a lot. It's called Pascal's dilemma. It's essentially a grid system. I believe in God or I don't on one side, and I'm right and I'm wrong on the other, with the outcome of each in the quadrants. So I believe and I'm right, nothing but upside, eternal salvation. I believe and I'm wrong, nothing happens, no downside, right? It's just life is only what we see here, and at the end it's black and okay. I don't know because I don't know. The alternative is I don't believe and I'm right. Your maximum upside is capped at nothing. Nothing happens, right? You die and it's black. But if you don't believe and you're wrong, you got nothing but downside. So from a purely logical betting standpoint, it makes sense to, to bet on the house.
Right. I mean,
right?
I like the view.
And then Reggie as well, because Reggie had coached in a few of the communities that I sold for or spoke at as well. So we had some crossover, and I actually really resonated with Reggie's approach at the time, which was the concept of universal laws, which I see in retrospect is his Trojan horse to really be able to take someone from 0 to 100 without them noticing. Because I was a believer that... we're in control of our reality and we can do things to influence stuff as long as we know how things work, right? Supplements work for their intended purpose if you know what they are and you do it right. Working out, same thing. Business, same thing. There's rules to maximize. And if you know them, you can play the game. Reggie's like that, right? So he would teach universal principles. And then later on, he's basically like, do you want to know who wrote those rules? So that was my reassurance to it. The intro was, again, just I'm open. Someone who I trusted shepherded me in.
Because of the cancer scare.
Exactly. That's what had me open in the first place. Because if it wasn't clear already, up until that point, you like raisins, I don't, no sweat, not for me.
Right. This is so cool because it just really goes to show that God will leave the 99 to get his one. Mm-hmm. And then how are you feeling? Because, you've gone through this time, Amber, of, gosh, God's telling me to wait. However, this is not what I envisioned for myself. Now, unfortunately, Grant, you had to have this medical issue arise, which we'll get back to in a second, which puts, a little bit of fear and what ifs. And then during this time, people are surrounding him. Now he gives his life to God. How are you feeling? What are you thinking?
I'm elated. I'm just like, knowing how God, kind of thinking I know how God works. I'm like, this cancer has been used for his good. Romans 8:28, he'll use all things for good for those who love him. And basically he's shepherded Grant towards him by giving him this scare. And unfortunately, I think that's how a lot of people come to God, is they have to fall on their knees. They have to be broken. They have to realize they're not in control, this illusion of control that we all have. It was true for me. I had to come to the end of myself before I really surrendered my life to God. I wish it weren't like that for us. I would rather people not have to do that. But we do as a species in general. And he was no different. And so I saw how God was using it to bring him to him and how he was trapped. He did leave the 99, go after the one. So we call him like Sneaky Jesus. Our pastor calls him Sneaky Jesus because, I really felt, and I have felt this so often, that I just felt God's love for me, that he was saying no to all these other guys, and he was saying yes to him because God knew what was possible with Grant. And he knew that Grant would give his life to Jesus, even if at first it didn't seem like some big event. God doesn't need a big event. He just needs your yes and your willingness. Faith of a mustard seed. So I was very happy.
Awesome. So kind of going back to this cancer scare, within the 30 days of you finding out to when you can have surgery, I assume that during those 30 days, you're eating a lot healthier, really diving in. That is when you gave your life to God.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what happens when 30 days arise?
30 days arrives. I go to the hospital for my scheduled surgery. I walk past the vending machine of full sugar Coca-Cola and Fritos, and it turned on my spidey senses. I was feeling a little off about it. And I go in, and they basically say, all right, we're going to prep you for, surgery. Go ahead and put these things on, and we'll be going to the operating room. They said something to that effect that alluded to me we weren't going to do another scan, which didn't feel right, because in those essentially 30 days from finding out till that point, not only had I gotten saved, but I'd basically done everything under the sun that could be thought of or recommended to make a difference. And I actually felt a huge difference. And so to me, I'm curious at the very least, hey, let me see this thing, because you showed me a grapefruit before. What do we got now? A baseball? I want to know what we're in for. They said, well, there's no reason to do a scan, because nothing you could have done could have made any difference. And now I look back, and the mature response would have been, yeah, sure, nothing I could have done but God. But I still was very, very new. And so that wasn't my response. Instead, it was offense of like, oh, who do you think you are? I'm pretty cool. There might have been something I could have done. And so,
I didn't just sit around and wait. I did something about
what do you think? I'm sitting on my thumb this whole month? So I delayed. I said, well, let's go ahead and reschedule, because if you're not going to do it, I got to get it. And I sought out an independent imaging facility, paid cash to have my own scan done. And it had shrunk by half.
In 30
Which
days.
I should have teed up. I get the scan. It's not immediate for your results. We go for my birthday to Mexico, and literally on my birthday is when the results came in. It couldn't have been a better birthday gift.
Whoa.
And it was such confirmation of not only God, but making healthy choices, that
Right.
cancer is not a death sentence.
Your life literally changed in 30 days.
Facts.
You went from living my life, digital nomad, got this cool girl, it's COVID, whatever, to getting this cancer scare, to completely changing the way you eat, completely changing what you put inside of your mental capacity, in the sense of reading the Bible, really diving in, having all these people surrounded by you that believe in God, showing you, telling you his ways. You go back, and by half,
Yeah.
that's insane.
What I've found over the course now of the last few years, I've seen many people saved. We've hosted lots of baptisms. We'll get into some of what's happened since in the meantime later. But I find time and time again, Jesus loves to show off for new believers.
Yeah.
He absolutely does. And yeah, 30 days, complete transformation. It's not gone, but wow.
That just adds so much
because
hope
anything from the
too.
medical system is not possible. That doesn't happen. Things don't work that way. And so, well, if we're going to just be in uncharted territory, let's keep this train rolling. Let's keep doing all the things. Mm-hmm. So we continued.
Yeah. So you didn't do the surgery.
Well, so that the day comes again, for we're coming up on when that rescheduled surgery would have been. I went in for a scan. It had shrunk more. And I think I might have done one more after that fact, all the while just continuing to postpone. Because I still figured, worst case scenario, it stopped shrinking, or it were to grow and now I'm going to have a smaller scar. It's still an option. But over that time period, both with just the reassurance of, hey, we're on the right path. Why would you divert from a path that's moving you closer to what you want? But also, a lot of the Joe Dispenza stuff is around a completely new identity. And I'm doing that at the same time, which essentially is you fully believing I am not the person who had that disease. That's just not my reality. That's not who I am. I know that there was a person basically that had that, but that's not me. And so I just got to the point where internal full conviction. That's not me anymore. That's a past life, past person. So what am I continuing to pay for these scans and all of this crap for anyway? And it's funny because there's not like a definitive conclusion to it that I can share. But what I can say is internally, I have nothing but conviction that God healed me. And yes, I played my part in being like obedient to not just being like, all right, God save me while I eat a pack of Oreos and, do nothing about
Sit
it.
on your thumb.
Yeah, sit on my thumb.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was only a couple months.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
He changed his life.
Wow. That is supernatural, amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So God saves you. He does a big work in you. Where do we, as a relationship, go from here? Like, how do we get engaged?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he's trying to get me out of California because of the COVID stuff.
Yeah, without getting too deep into it, because I know I can be kind of a crap talker on it. Like, we lived by the beach. One of our favorite things was morning and or night beach walks. It was amazing.
Beach
That
is
was one of our
amazing.
biggest bonding things. Yeah. We loved it. And there was a period of a few months where you could go to Walmart and the liquor store, but it's illegal to be on the beach, and they had cops patrolling. I was over it. I did have a lot of love for San Diego for a while, but I was just over California as a whole. And so I wanted to move. And
so he had like talked to me about moving to Arizona, and I did not want to. I'm not a desert girl. But he got me to a place of being open. And then my best friend Kylie had a surprise for me. It was wild. He takes me to the airport, and I don't know where I'm going. And basically I learned that I'm flying to Maui to go visit her. She bought me a ticket. So he drops me off at the airport to go visit her in Maui, and he heads to Arizona. And literally the weekend I'm with Kylie in Maui, he buys a house in Arizona. Like over like a span of 2 to 3 days. You saw like 20 some
in fairness,
houses.
I think it was like 3.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
But like house after house, looks, finds it, buys it. Basically lets me know like I bought us a house. And I'm like, oh, this is different.
We're not doing it God's way. Continue.
Yeah. Like this is different. And we had already talked about getting engaged. And so I knew that that was coming, but we were not engaged yet.
Yeah, I think you were quite disappointed to find out that wasn't like a trip for you to get engaged. But in retrospect, like you did then learn that trip was paramount for the engagement process, because unbeknownst to her, Kylie was the secret agent to find out exactly what ring she would want and how the things would go and all of that stuff. Because I wanted to plan it.
I mean, that's pretty cool. You get a trip just to figure out what ring you want, basically.
Yeah.
It all worked out. It was very convenient for that.
Yeah. So when we moved to Arizona, he starts going to church, and that's a big difference, is now there's no resistance to church. He starts going, we start praying, and, we take your parents to church. We take my mom to church. That's fully happening. And then basically we go on another Mexico retreat trip. And do you want to share about that?
Well, it wasn't another Mexico one. It was another trip. So this was our first Joe Dispenza one.
Right, but it was another Mexico trip.
Yeah, so because Joe Dispenza's stuff had been a big component of what I attributed to my healing process, and I thought it was really cool, we had an opportunity through a friend of Amber. We got invited. Check this out. It's basically a week-long, right? Mm-hmm. Almost a week. Mm-hmm. Meditation retreat. Sounded like a blast. You're at a Mexico resort. You get to do the same thing that you've been doing with a bunch of other people. Mm-hmm. Have fun. That essentially coincided almost perfectly with Amber's birthday. We always take a birthday trip anyway. So I figured that would be the perfect time to propose. But I had already ordered the ring, and it was a custom thing, like a custom order. And so we agree to do this trip. We book it, and we're excited for it. And I have come to the conclusion that at some point on this trip, what better way to propose? But as the trip gets closer and closer, I am sweating because that thing was not here yet. And I call in and I find out it's not scheduled to be there yet. And so in true Costa Rica passport fashion, I'm like it has to be here. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like, I'll pay for it to be expedited. What can we do? And so they accept the money, but without a guarantee that it would be possible, because they basically put it on the postal service. Long story short, day before we gotta fly out for the Joe Dispenza retreat, I sneakily find it in the mailbox. Thank God. Again.
Wow.
We're a lot of day before kind of stuff. But it's one of those things where, as much as we have our own comfortable timing for things, where it'd be great if we could just have our timing work out comfortably. God doesn't usually work in that way, at least in our relationship testimony. But he comes through. He comes through, not always without your sweat, but it reminds me of a sign I saw yesterday that I liked. We might buy or something, and it's just a good reminder. Pray about it more than you worry about it. And if we just focused on that more and we just trusted his timing, I mean, it works out anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
But we get the ring. We fly out. We have great time on the trip. We're probably like on the latter half of this meditation retreat. There just hadn't been a proper time for it yet. I've thought about taking the ring in my pocket, but not quite. And so we find out there's going to be a walking meditation day. And essentially what this means is what it sounds like. There's not a lot to explain.
we're
we're walking and meditating at the same time. It's kind of a cool thing, but on the beach. So I'm like, oh, this is perfect. Perfect. So I smuggled the ring out with me, and I'm just looking for my opportunity. I figured with, what was there, maybe 1,000 people there?
Yeah, a lot.
It wouldn't be all that hard to find a videographer or, someone to take a picture while I wasn't really thinking about what walking meditation was. Everyone is completely locked into their own thing, noise-canceling headphones. So I'm trying to balance this, like, all right, I want to make this happen with how the heck do I do this? Trying to find her in the thousands of people walking up and down this beach without being noticed, and then also find someone who'd be willing to take a picture or a video, because I knew like that would really suck if we didn't have one. Amber is the best at actually looking back at pictures and videos. I've never met someone who takes pictures and videos and genuinely goes back and looks at them and reflects on them like you do. Long story short, I end up propping the phone up in the sand. I found her, come up from behind, kind of shoulder tap, so to speak, and you flip. And I think you wanted to take over from here.
You just put your arms around me, and so I thought we were just snuggling.
Yeah.
And then you like pull away, and you keep my hand, and you get on your knee, and I was very shocked. Ugly cry, all of it.
All of it.
I have a good picture of that.
It
was
that.
very
That's a great
beautiful.
picture.
Yeah, it was very special. And obviously, like, we weren't doing it God's way. It was such a weird thing because I had such a deep relationship with the Lord, and I heard the Lord saying, wait, right? But I wasn't getting much beyond that at the time. And so it was really interesting because the man is supposed to be the spiritual head of the home, but he wasn't. And he was still learning and growing. And so it was like trying to navigate that, also doing things for personal growth that we now know differently about, which we didn't know then. So it's really like our story is so much about that growth and going through the different phases, and learning now about what we know about meditation and new age stuff, which we didn't know then, but it was a beautiful engagement. Very beautiful. We stayed in Mexico for another week or so, and then started planning the wedding and just growing in our relationship with God, and got married in San Diego with all our friends.
Take it right back where it started, kind of.
I was like, your girl needs to be at the beach, okay? I'm not getting married in no desert. So, yeah, we had a beautiful, and that was also God, because I always wanted to have a big, beautiful wedding. And especially when you wait as long as I did, it's like, I want to have a celebration. And I had no idea how I would ever pay for that, because I knew my family wasn't going to be contributing. His family wasn't contributing. But
there's that wedding tax.
Yeah, there's a real wedding tax. Everything is exponentially expensive. But the Lord provided. Like, my business just took off during COVID. And he just provided so much finances that I was able to pay for the wedding. And then really my dreams came true because we went on our honeymoon for 2.5 months to
Wow.
Europe and the
Wow.
Maldives. And like for years on my computer at work, I had the screensaver of those bungalow huts over the water in the Maldives and Tahiti. And like I have a 3-piece picture on our wall of these huts over the water. And that was my dream, was to do that. And I just held on to that for years. And we went there our first week of our honeymoon.
Wow.
I used to know how many cities it was. I think it was 30 cities and
9 countries.
9 countries. It was
It's crazy. You
incredible.
said 2.5 months?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a vacation.
One of
Yeah.
those other fun things, though, like, because our story happens to be so much around growth and God's timing and how he comes through in weird ways, you know, if you really pay attention. We had never done anything close to a trip like that. And so we were happy to have a travel agent who was going to make everything easy and smooth and frictionless, and we could just have a good time. We had a very inconsistent and not ideal experience with the travel agent. They just did not work out whatsoever. But God came through, and it all worked out in ways that I don't think a human could have coordinated better. Literally, we had no issues with our trip aside from travel coordinator, which when we just gave it to God, it was perfect.
Wow.
Yeah, he
Wouldn't have
always
changed a thing.
provided. Yeah. It was such a beautiful trip, just from the food to everywhere we got to go. I mean, it was unbelievable.
Wow.
Trip of a lifetime for sure.
This is so cool because it really just goes to show, again, how God will just pluck you. It's your time. You are mine. I am saving you. But then also for you, Amber, through your whole own testimony journey of just, again, God's timing and just being patient and obedient with God and just really leaning into him and trusting that you have your desires on your heart and he will give them to you, but it's going to be in his timing and his way. And it's not going to look the way that maybe you pictured for yourself.
Yeah. And he's taking 2 people who were of the world, right? I was very of the world. You were very of the world. And we were both coming to God at different times. And he's trying to mold us and shape us. And it's our job to be obedient to that. And so I think our testimony is a testament to the transformation that happens when you say yes to God. And it doesn't necessarily look the way you imagined. You know, it certainly didn't for us. But he's been faithful through it all and continuing into our move out here. So it's been unbelievable the way he's healed and transformed our lives.
And what's also really cool is that, as you just mentioned, you didn't have God in your life for such a long time. You did. You guys came together with one person having God in the relationship to eventually both of you. How has that flourished within your marriage?
So many things.
Yeah, all over the place. I mean, do we want to move into like being here out in Georgia?
Yeah, well, to answer your question, I think like all of our decision making is now surrendered to the Lord. So, and that started with when we came back from our honeymoon, the Lord said, you know, he's going to do a new thing. Do I not perceive it? And he gave me a scripture. I put it on my whiteboard that he was going to have us move. And we were thinking Florida, Hawaii.
Amber
and
loves the beach, so
the
she was
beach.
singing beach.
Yeah. And then we came out here to visit Georgia. We visited our friends, and it turned out he was confirming, no, you're moving to Georgia. And at first I was very confused by that, but it was very consistent with, we wanted land. We wanted to grow our own food. Just with the way the world has been moving, we wanted more autonomy.
Yeah, that was a small no
Mm-hmm.
that you said. God made it a big no. A couple of the places that we thought we would love to be there, we toured. I mean, legitimately natural or man-made disasters confirmed. Those were not
Weeks
in
after
God's
we left
plans.
them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We went to Naples, Florida. We wanted to live in Florida. We spent 2 weeks in Florida traveling. We loved Naples. It is a retirement area, but we loved it. A couple weeks after we left, hurricane hit Naples.
After we had asked locals, I mean, it's like, do you ever get concerned about hurricanes? Never lived somewhere where that's possible. They go, no, definitely not. Not a worry at all. We don't get hit with them. It's been hundreds of years since the last time. It was like a week and a half. It just got decimated. after we were
We
there.
go to Maui a month later. We were touring Maui for like a week looking for homes.
Yep.
A month later, Maui gets hit with the fires.
Yeah, they torched Lahaina.
And so it was like these obvious things where the stuff that we really wanted to do, God was like, no. And he brought us here. So we've surrendered our decision making to the Lord as a couple. We now live in Georgia, and we're a part of our small church here, and we're on the worship team. He plays guitar, I sing. Never would I have thought that would be where we're at. But the Lord knew that's where we would be. When we encounter difficulties, we come together and we pray. We pray warfare prayers. We pray in agreement. We take communion together. Like just every way that we do things now, God is in the midst of it. Because he is the provider, not him, not me. It's God. And so that's still in process, right? We're not perfect at that, but we're still learning to go to his word, stand on his promises, even with our family. I mean, I've been trying to get pregnant for 2.5 years. So, but he has shown me that children are coming. And it's a constant process of remembering to trust him and to release my timing to him and knowing that his timing is perfect. So we've been in all the ways doing that.
Wow, that's beautiful. It really just goes to show how much a marriage flourishes with God in the center of it. And how it also takes a lot of pressure off both of you individually, but then how it brings you together as well.
Oh, yeah.
That's super cool. And then, just to kind of get into this house, you never saw yourself not being by a beach. You get led to this house, which I know before even getting this house, some things had happened, which give me 1 second. You could share about that. But then just all the things that have also happened within this house. So please take it away and kind of describe.
Yeah, God told us we were moving to Georgia in June of 2023. So in fall of 2023, we came out here just to look at neighborhoods, and we found this house. And when we found this house, there was confirmation through several different people that this was our house. And your husband even had a dream that this was our house and that we were going to get the house. And what was so interesting about it was it's by far the biggest, most expensive home that we've ever considered having. And we were fine. Like financially, we could put an offer on it. And the day we went to put an offer on this house, we're like in the house and my honey's like pacing out here for a long time. And I'm like, what's going on? Basically, he lost half of his income the day we went to put an offer on this house, which means that we would no longer be able to afford this house. So most people would pull out and say, okay, we can't afford this house anymore. But when we dug into God, God said, no, that's your house. I want you to move forward.
Curious, did he give you a yes together and also individually?
I mean, he gave me a yes. I can't remember what happened for you.
I like touring houses. I'm always curious to do some snooping, and I've done that a lot, be it, 30 houses in a weekend to buy the one in Arizona. Right. So like I've seen them. I worked construction. I know what to look for, and I have a pretty good gut on it. And we were touring beautiful houses that made sense and just didn't feel right. This one, when we came into, it felt like home right away. So that was kind of my personal confirmation. But most of what we had was community confirmation or people. I mean, your mom was one of them too, where she has, in her own words, said that she struggles to hear from God. And what's funny is the morning of the day that we found this one, she had texted you saying like, I really feel like God's telling me you're going to find your house today. And
which was weird coming from my mom.
Like, right? That's not a normal thing. And then it just over and over. So we had a lot of confirmation for it.
But he hears from God through his feelings. He gets feelings. And I hear from God like through that voice and also dreams, visions.
Yeah, I wanted to ask just because we did have that previous episode of hearing from God, but also it's so important to have it's so important to have a relationship with God individually, but also like as a couple. So that's why I was curious to ask that question.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because you're very much a feeler, and you will like hear or see stuff. I am very much a thinker, and I will feel confirmation from God.
Which I think is cool because it's
Yeah, but I wish I could just like see or hear it. So like,
This is
pray
what I
for
want.
more of the gifts. I'd like more of those things. Just
you can ask for them.
speak in my language, please.
Right,
But
right.
it's not up to us.
Yeah.
But yeah,
We just had a lot of different confirmations, internal, external. And basically, there was a lot, if you've been on your journey with God, you know that it's like getting from A to B is not always a straight line. It can be. God can just, when something's for you, God can just open doors and it's just like so easeful. Sometimes when things are for you, especially if there's going to be a lot of blessings like this house, or there's going to be a lot of kingdom work that's done in this house, there were so many obstacles. Oh my goodness. We had so many obstacles to get this house. But it's crazy because we immediately, when we got it, we had a baptism. We baptized 9 people here.
I was one of them.
Yeah, you and your husband were one of them. Then we had 2 of your weddings
I
here.
was about to say. My wedding was here. Honestly, I think you guys got the house for me.
Yeah, I think so.
That's kinda what
I
it
For
think
me and my
so.
husband.
Yeah. We had baby showers here. We had Thanksgiving, Christmas parties, 4th of July,
Year's.
New Year's, birthday parties.
had multiple people saved here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
people will come and visit and they'll get saved. Like, I believe the Lord has us doing retreats in the future. It's very much a retreat house. So the Lord has been doing a work in this house. And that's why I think we had so much opposition to getting it. But we just stayed the course with the Lord.
On that note, and maybe it'll tee up Jackie well for when you have her on the podcast, because that's going to be a fantastic episode. She was sharing with us, maybe when we were hosting like the 4th of July party last year or something, this crazy story of God stopping a massive terrorist bombing, but in a way that was extremely embarrassing, challenging, and hard for her. And it was a really cool testimony for her to share, and I'll spare the details because it's absolutely worth her telling the full story. But the punchline is God's biggest miracles don't always feel good. In fact, there's rarely a correlation between a miracle and a good feeling. And I think a lot of times we might be misled to feel like, oh, if this is God's plan, it's going to be easy and it's going to feel good the whole way. So if it's not easy and it doesn't feel good, maybe that's not for me. Maybe that's not God's plan. And I've seen more in my life and in our like relationship testimony and in this community than ever. Completely changed my perspective. The feeling of it being good and easeful, irrelevant to whether God's working a miracle, and like the trust in him to work all things for good, as we've kind of talked about before. That's where you got to be. Independent of how we feel about it or what we think of it, like God's got bigger plans for us. It's all on his timing, and it doesn't have to feel good for it to be good.
Yeah. That's why hearing from him is the most important thing. Because if you know you've heard from him and you're obedient, even if it doesn't look or feel good, you can trust it. If you're not clear if you've heard from him, and then who knows? You could be going down the wrong path. So it's like we are choosing a life where we are obedient to the Lord first over anything, over our feelings, over our desires. In my desires, I'd live in Florida right now. But actually, I wouldn't, because what
I would
he's
just
given
be
us.
traveling full time.
Yeah, we'd be traveling because what he's
Back to
given
Italy.
us here, the community, the love, the connection, the support. Like, I've never experienced this on any beach I've ever been to, So God knows what we need more than what we think we want.
Wow. So beautifully said. And so very opposite of what the world would tell you.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. And you guys are just, again, a testimony that shows when you follow the Lord and you're obedient and you do things that don't necessarily seem right on the outside, where that can actually lead you.
Yeah. And just a quick thing to say about that, because I know a lot of people are going through this. I watched this sermon one time and it talked about looking like a fool for God. And sometimes when you're in process with God, you look like a fool. Like if we were to tell everybody the ins and outs of what's gone on with this house, they'd be like, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't
you know,
recommend it.
and so sometimes, because God is outside of logic. He does not move in a logical way. He's going to use people that you don't think he should use. And that's the point, because he's proving that it's him. So looking like a fool for God, we're all in on that. Even though it's really hard, and you don't often tell everybody who don't have eyes to see and ears to hear, because they'll try to talk you out of it, because it doesn't always look like what the world says is the right thing to do.
And for someone like myself who is new on their journey, it's been really cool to, in a sense, observe you guys, to kind of know what's going on, but then also see how deep in your faith you are and how much you trust God. It's been really cool to observe, because it has helped me along with my journey. And I do believe that we are placed here by God not to carry out, like, again, self, but a lot of times, like, our mission is for other people, to observe, to see how we act, go about life, our dedication to the Lord, because that just draws more people in.
100%.
But this episode has been just so impactful, and I really appreciate both of you coming on here, being vulnerable, sharing your testimony. As we wrap things up, I kind of have two questions. One being, and this is mainly for you, Amber, as you know, we live in this society where there is a lot of pressure for women. And then I believe that there is a whole nother added pressure for Christian women, especially looking for their Christian husband. You had a very unique experience. And so I'm curious, what would you say to other Christian women who are kind of in your place, that are looking for their husband, that, are looking for a Christian husband, but maybe they're going towards people that aren't Christian? What advice would you give them?
I want to be clear to say that I'm in no way advocating for someone to be unequally yoked. I think that's really important. I really don't think that you want to pursue someone, even in dating, that doesn't know or love the Lord. However, with that said, I had a unique experience where God was telling me to wait here, to be here with him, even though I didn't understand that. And now in hindsight, I can see, well, that worked out. But it only worked out because I was in with my relationship with the Lord, because I was going deep with the Lord, because I put the Lord first. And how I noticed that was different with Grant versus other men is other men became like an idol to me. They were like up on a pedestal. This was my family. This was going to be the thing. And when I had that last breakup before meeting Grant, I surrendered all of that. And I said, Lord, I don't want anything unless you're in it, unless you say yes to it, which was why it was so hard when I met Grant, because I was like, Lord, this is not what I said. But he knew the future with Grant. And so when you put God first, I would say to any woman, like, put the Lord first, make him your priority. Pursue God with all your heart, and you will find him. And he'll show your husband. He will. He didn't put that desire for a man in your heart just to leave you empty-handed. That is not our God. He is faithful. It might come later than you imagined. And I get it. Like, did I want to meet my husband at 38? No, I didn't. But that is my story. And maybe there's a reason so that I can give other women hope to say, your husband is coming, but only if you listen to the Lord first. And it might not look the way you thought, but it's going to be amazing. It's better than I imagined. It's better than any other relationship I've ever had, how safe I feel, how loved I feel. It's better than anything I've ever experienced. And it's because it wasn't on my terms. It was about what God wanted for me. And so that's the number one thing.
I love that. And then last but not least, Grant, we love to ask our guest what is their favorite scripture and why.
Man, it's hard to follow that up. That was powerful.
I know.
Oh, you felt
We
that?
found a clip right there. If I ever seen one.
You felt that. You felt that.
Yeah, that was good. Love you. Yeah, so I would say that my favorite verse because it's the one that stuck with me the most. And funny enough, in retrospect, I've seen so many times in my life where it's actually shown up. One time in very particular, when We drove off the road. We had an oil slick. This was a prior relationship, just to be clear, but hit an oil slick, flew off the road, through a fence, cars unscathed, no issues, perfectly fine. But terrifying, obviously, in the middle of the night off a highway.
Were you hurt?
No.
Wow.
Completely fine. No issues with the car. Absolute miracle. This is before I was saved. But this sticks in my mind, and it's tied to the scripture. Get back on the road, drive miles and miles and miles. First gas station we see, it's a Love's. Big old Love's sign. And we pull in, and I'm getting gas, and this guy out of nowhere pops up behind me and goes, I saw you. Off the road. God is with you. And this is before I was saved, and I thought, well, this is crazy. But it kind of stuck with me.
Right.
Kind of stuck with me. Coming back around, my favorite verse, Genesis 28:15, that I see come up over and over again. God is saying, I am with you, and I'll be with you wherever you go. I'll bring you back to this land, and I will not leave you until I've done what I've promised you.
Amen.
And that, to me, just, again, time and time again, I see it over and over again. It's not like everything always feels good. In fact, most things don't always feel good. We're in a big period of growth and expansion, and stretching is uncomfortable. And that's a big thing. But I see over and over, God is with me. God is with us wherever we go, however we feel, whatever we're doing. And he's not leaving. He's a good father. He's always there, and he will not leave us until he's done what he's promised us. And I encourage you to open up the Bible and to really do some digging and look at all of God's promises, because he's a big promise maker.
There's 7,000.
But he's also a promise keeper. And that brings me a lot of peace, no matter what we're going through and what we're doing. He's always there.
That's very impactful. I love that one. I'm going to have to go back and check it out.
It's a good one to meditate on.
No, seriously. I love that. And it really, again, just goes to show that even the times that we don't believe in God or we haven't been saved yet, like, God is with us because he created us.
Yeah.
We just live in a very satanic world, playground, I like to say, and it takes time to come back. But wow, that's beautiful. You two, this has been such an awesome episode. It's been so cool to hear about your testimony and just all the wonderful facets of not being with God, God saving you, breaking you down to your knees, your mind, to what it's like to see the growth of a God-centered marriage. As someone who, me and my husband are close to you guys, it's been really cool to witness that and observe and honestly, like, take little facets into our own marriage or individually, like, so cool. So again, Grant, thank you so much for being a guest today. Been absolutely amazing.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Well, until next episode, remember that your past does not define you.
But your redemption refines you.
Love you, gals.
Love you, gals.